schlug bewusst, dass das Beweis gegenseitig widerlegen würde, wäre.
Lenny did not take part in the underground altercation. He only witnessed traces of the aftermath.
Ja.
Attention! Ace Detective Paimon has something to say! When the countdown started, Lenny did indeed go into the tunnel. But he immediately used a vent to access the Opera House basement, which is where the underground core of the Oratrice is stored. Once he reached that area, he heard a voice in what should have been an empty room. Since he felt something was amiss, he returned immediately. The crime scene had already developed by the time he reached the tunnel again, and in order to complete the magic trick, he did not remain there for any length of time. Finally, he reached the surface, and that was when the accident happened from his point of view. Therefore, he's innocent.
Easy. Batzmann. Erfolgreich widerlegt. Ja, so macht man das. Musste ich aber gerade auch weggrübeln.
Paimon did it! Paimon actually managed to say all that!
In other words, you believe that he knew nothing of the incident?
That's right!
My reasoning?
If that's the case, then if Carol hadn't entered the tunnel, who was the entire setup meant to kill? Assuming that what you say is true, Lenny only needed to kidnap the young girl to cause a new disappearance case. What would the point of killing someone on stage be?
Oh, they have a point.
That's right, you tell him! And that's why they're partners of mine. Oh, well, your denial is very strident, I'll give you that. But what proof do you have to back your claims? Of course I do. If he had been in the magic box the whole time, how could he have not heard that sound? You're saying that he wasn't?
That's right! Lenny wasn't in the box or in the tunnel. That's why he didn't hear anything strange during the performance. This means that when the crime happened, Lenny had already entered the basement via the vent. The same clue you used to disprove his alibi has now become the best proof! Ha ha!
Well played. To think you'd use such logic. Well then, if it wasn't Lenny who committed the crimes, then who was it?
Halsey is the missing person and an ordinary audience member. Or could there have been a third person involved? Halsey is the missing person and could there have been a third person? The deceased's name is Cowell.
Huh? That can't be right. The killer was, in fact...
Oh, is that so? How interesting!
What I must do next is recreate the truth. What Cowell did, and how he went from would-be perpetrator to victim. It would have been tough for both people to fit into that vent. They would likely have bumped into Lynn. No one entered or left the opera house through its entrances. So where would the criminal have wanted to take Halsey? The sound we heard may have come from a clash between the missing Halsey and the criminal. No one entered or left the opera house through its entrances. So where would the criminal have wanted to take Halsey? It would have been tough for both people to fit into that vent. They would likely have bumped into Linny as well. Linny was not in the tunnel at that moment, which gave our criminal ample time. No one entered or left the opera house through its entrances. It would have been tough for both people to fit into that vent. They would likely have bumped into Linny as well. The sound we heard may have come from a clash between the missing Halsey. Halsey's clothing was in the tunnel, so there must have been some fear that she would attract attention. The deceased's name is Cowell, Linny's assistant. He would have been... It would have been tough for both... Linny was not in the tunnel at that moment. The sound we heard may have come from a clash between the missing Halsey and the... Linny was not in the tunnel at that... Halsey's clothing was in the tunnel. Halsey's clothing was in the tunnel. The deceased's name is Cowell. No one entered or... It would have been tough for both... Linny was not in the tunnel. Halsey's clothing was in... Halsey's clothing was in the... The deceased's name is... No one entered or left...
What's wrong, Traveler? Are you still having trouble figuring things out?
I see how it is. So this was all just a bluff.
Look, since we're at a dead end, why not consider a different track? Just like the trick as it transpired, the end result must have been utterly different from the magician's initial design.
If only we knew how Halsey disappeared.
Well, that would be nice, but the tunnel only has 3 exits, and none of them seem very likely. And it's not like this is a magic trick where you can just make a real live person disappear. You know, like you did from that water tank, Lynette.
Excuse my interruption, dear opponents, but do you not see that the crowd...
If the defense is unable to make further effective arguments, we will move on to the next stage of the trial.
Linny was not in the tunnel at that moment, which gave our criminal ample time. The sound we heard may have come from a clash between the missing Halsey and the deceased's name is Cowell, Linny's assistant. The vase was not broken.
Oh, Paimon gets it! It all comes together if Halsey disappeared instead of being kidnapped. Lynette escaped from the water tank, vanishing gradually and leaving only clothes behind. If there's a similar method where a person...
Oh, just a moment, please. How could a person ever be transformed into water? This is reality we're talking about here, not some magic trick. Must we really? I should think that of anyone. Your friend, magic tricks are ultimately just illusions and misdirection. But Halsey's disappearance is very real.
Even so, I trust the traveler's judgment. The truth must be out there somewhere. Perhaps some new line of reasoning may open if we try to gather all the focal points that don't make sense. Since Cal was the deceased, we haven't placed much attention on him. But given that we aren't making much progress with the case, it wouldn't hurt to have a look at his belongings, would it?
People really do come up with all sorts of harebrained schemes when at the end of their rope. The way I see it,
Nevertheless, I believe that this is a reasonable request on the part of an attorney. Since the trial does indeed appear to be at an impasse, I believe that additional evidence may help us make more progress. Guards, please step into the lounge and examine the personal effects of the deceased, Cowell.
Tja.
We are still examining the items, but we have already made critical progress that we feel must be shared with everyone post-haste. We discovered several test tubes of fluid within Cowell's baggage, each labeled separately. The notebook in his backpack claims that these fluids are... water.
The primordial sea.
The note's contents also indicate that Cowell belonged to an organization that sells illegal drugs and that he had an accomplice. The notebook has many entries concerning safe usage of these fluids, in which the keyword dissolve appears many times. One of these tubes was labeled Opera Epiclese, along with yesterday's date. It is empty. The notes also state that these dissolution properties work exclusively on people from Fontaine. It's likely that Halsey was chosen as some sort of test subject. As such, we believe that the defense's hypothesis is, in fact, supported by sufficient evidence.
You've got to be kidding! People dissolving into water?
Could something so ridiculous actually be true?
Wait a moment. This reminds me of a certain prophecy, but it's just a coincidence, isn't it?
Huh. If people can become water, does that mean that the water tank's real use was as a means to hide water stains? And if Cowell... Wait just a minute. Could that mean... You two, with me!
Demoiselle, wait! What about your partners?
Let's go. Just trust me.
Order! Order! It is undeniable that further examination of the deceased's personal effects has yielded some surprising results. Still, let us assume that these clues are indeed authentic, albeit with the understanding that Ms. Halsey has yet to be found. Guards, please continue examining the items along these lines. Mr. Linney, it appears your hypothesis is supported by the evidence, so please continue speaking.
Of course. Thank you, Your Honor. If we uphold this hypothesis, I believe that many of this case's seemingly unrelated clues can be connected together.
Right! Like the metal hook! That one didn't make sense at all. Let's think about this. Cowell's methods must have something to do with that water...
I remember there was something else within the inner layer of that box. Lynette was in the magic box on stage the entire time. Did she have something to do with this? The water from the primordial sea. Now it seems like the hook rope. The rope that held the water tank up.
Passt was nicht.
The water from the primordial sea. I remember there was something else within the inner layer of the water from the primordial sea. The deceased's name is Cowell. Now it seems like the hook. The rope that held the water. The deceased's name is. The water from the primordial sea. Lynette was in the magic box on stage. I remember there was something.
Die beiden Dinge passen nicht zusammen.
Lynette was in the magic. Now it seems like the.
Nur noch das Ding passt nicht.
The deceased's name is.
Jetzt aber. Let's go. Ja gut, da muss man halt ein bisschen rumrätseln, ne? Was es sein könnte.
It's Ace Detective Paimon's time to shine again! In the original plan, Cowell would tamper with the water tank rope and the number selector securing his target. When the magic box containing Halsey was lowered, the metal hook would retract gradually and pierce the balloon at the top of the box. When the balloon attached to the box popped, the water from the primordial seed inside it would pour down and dissolve Halsey. Afterward, Cowell would enter the tunnel and break the flower vase to conceal the water inside the tunnel, with the remaining evidence being covered up by the water tank on stage. But he encountered something unexpected in the tunnel and wound up being fatally hit by the same water tank he meant to use to cover his tracks.
Huh. That does make sense.
That actually links together a lot of the more confusing pieces.
Oh dear, what do I do? Even I think they sound convincing now. Have I falsely accused an innocent—
Now, it seems like the only point of contention remaining is the exact circumstances that led to Cal's death. His notes mentioned he had an accomplice who could be related to the situation.
On that note, the guards have just contacted me indicating that they uncovered new evidence. I shall now invite him on stage to share it with us.
Thank you, Your Honor. We were just inspecting the luggage of the other people involved in this case. And we found an identical sample of the water from the primordial sea among Linny's personal effects.
What?
That can't be.
Oh, I see. Well, how wonderfully comedic to have your own counterattack only to come back and wound you. Does this not clear all doubt? My dear citizens, my loyal audience, allow me to present my reasoning and bring this performance to a swift close.
Oh god.
Linny did not need to take part in the dissolution of the young woman at all. Indeed, he did leave the scene via the vent. Having made modifications to the props beforehand, his accomplice Cowell then caused Halsey to vanish using the water from the primordial sea. But upon his return, in cruel avarice, Linny desired sole credit and prepared to do away with. Ultimately, he knocked Cowell out, and the tool meant to cover the crime up also became a. Now, as much as I regret having come to such a viciously straightforward conclusion, am I right, Mr. Linny?
We've used up all the evidence we collected. There's no way for us to make a rebuttal here. Is this the end of the road?
Oh god.
Oh no! Paimon can't think of anything either. Seems using the water as new evidence was too good a move. Why did this have to happen now?
I think we've all seen enough now. And I believe this is indeed the finale. Now then, my good, noble Chief Justice, should we not, in your view, move...
Excuse me, everyone, but I must interject.
Miss, I must ask you not to shout, and to respect the ongoing legal proceedings.
Oh, come on. Don't be hasty. I have a good reason for interrupting, you know. Now, would anyone here like to take a little break from all this debate and see a little magic? I'll show you an amazing trick. One that can bring a young woman who has disappeared back in the flesh, right before your very eyes. Please.
What in the world is she saying?
No offense, miss, but miracles like that are beyond my scope as a magician.
Come on now, don't be silly. Magic is all about misdirection, isn't it? It often conceals the truth while presenting a fascinating illusion. But once everyone believes the illusion, can't magic reveal the truth to them once again? And wouldn't such a trick be the most marvelous finale to today's performance? Come on, Linny and Lynette, give it another go. Don't worry, Spina di Rasula has made the necessary arrangements on your behalf. But as the magic makers and stars of the show, I think I should leave the final performance to you.
I understand.
And voila.
Sorry for the interruption.
Wait, isn't that Halsey? So the whole thing about people dissolving wasn't true after all?
To be clear, I'm only here because this person told me that if I testified, the merit of doing so would lessen my sentence. I was hiding outside this room listening to the proceedings because I was afraid that I would be the one put on trial. I was just feeling happy that no one had noticed me, and then before I knew it, she caught me.
That'll teach you to underestimate us three.
Where should I begin? I'm sorry. I'm the one who killed Cowell.
What? Why?
Firstly, my name isn't Halsey. It's Lillian, and I'm originally from Mondstadt. I heard that Linny's show was gonna be a real thriller, but I missed the chance to buy a ticket, so I stole one. That's how I make a living. I steal stuff here and there, and I'd never been caught before. But I was noticed at the harbor a few days ago, and I barely got away. Linny was the one who caught me in the act.
Hey, no wonder you look familiar. So you were the thief. Liddy even mentioned that you were pretty skilled.
Well, and I thought that would have been the end of it, but then the number selector chose me. He even mentioned the Fortress of Meripede. That's a prison, isn't it? So you can imagine how shocked I was. I thought he was on to me for sure. So I played along with the show while looking for an opening to flee, but then I got water poured on me for no reason, and then someone jumped into the tunnel to nab me. I wasn't going to take that lying down, so I knocked him out and stuffed him into the box. There was nowhere to run from there, though, so I had to change my clothes and hide in a box containing performance costumes. I slipped out after the first guard arrived at the scene and continued hiding inside the opera house.
Can a person even hide in there?
But I swear I didn't know that the water tank would fall down. Really, I swear it. Had I known that, I wouldn't have put him in the magic box. I may be a thief, but I'm no killer.
Well, that makes everything pretty clear now, doesn't it?
This time, we need to tell the entire story from Lily-Ann's perspective. Seem... The strange sound wasn't from a fight. It was Lily-Ann's attempt to break out when she was frightened. The flower vase was not broken to cover anything up, but... Lily-Ann was afraid that she would be recognized if she left, so she...
And it's Ace Detective Paimon time! Having been selected out of the blue, Lily-Ann panicked. Her panic only intensified after she entered the tunnel and had water poured on her head. So she kicked the door open, producing the thud we all heard. Hearing the commotion, Cowell leapt into the tunnel, only to discover that Lily-Ann had not dissolved. He did not know that Lily-Ann was not from Fontaine, but was a thief who made her way in, mistakenly believing that the water from the primordial sea needed time to take effect. The two broke the flower vase during the struggle, but Lily-Ann came out on top, knocking Cowell out, and put with no way of escaping, she changed her clothes and hid in the costume trunk until the performance ended.
Tja, da war die Geschichte doch nicht
She knew
richtig.
that she would have to go through guard inspection if she tried to leave afterward. So, she has been trapped in the opera house these last 2 days.
She had already become desperately hungry by the time we were chatting over macarons. So, she swiped 2 of them right under our noses.
At this point, all the events that happened in the tunnel have now come to light.
Ah, so that's the whole story.
Bravo! Bravo!
Now then, Lady Farina, do you wish to speak against the defense's statements? Please answer the question, Lady Farina. Also, if I may add, the trial has not yet ended. As such, I request that the prosecution not leave the room before the...
What, are you reading my mind now? No, I have no further arguments. I admit defeat. But really, could you at least have left me with some dignity?
Wow! Look at that! She's like a deflated balloon now!
If there are no objections, then as the Chief Justice of Fontaine, I shall once again repeat the full sequence of events. The actual perpetrator of the serial disappearances, Cowell, selected his next victim from the audience reservation list. With some modifications to the selector, he could ensure that the pre-selected young woman would be chosen. To cover up any evidence while committing the deed, Cowell thought of allowing the water tank to fall, which would conceal the water left behind after the young woman was dissolved. He also tampered with the rope suspending the water tank, using the fireworks at the end of the performance to cause the tank to drop and hide the watermarks. He poured the water from the primordial sea into a balloon during the preparation of the magic box and stuck it to the box's lid. Finally, he passed the prepared hook on a rope through the gap in the magic box's door when bringing the young woman to said box. When the magic trick officially began, the box containing the woman was lowered into the tunnel, tightening the hook rope and bursting the balloon containing the water. If all had gone to plan, the young woman would be dissolved at this time. However, Lillian was not from Fontaine, and thus fled the box with a loud noise. Realizing that there was trouble, Cowell entered the tunnel and met Lillian. Thinking that the waters had not yet taken effect, he decided to proceed. However, his opponent was more capable than he thought, and he was overcome, knocked unconscious, and placed into the magic box. And thus, Lillian, according to her own statements, then changed clothes and hid until the performance ended, before hiding in other parts of the opera house. As for Linny, he was in the underground structures within the opera house, and from this reconstruction of events, we can conclude that Linny, the accused, is in fact... While there is much in Linny and Lillian's conduct that should still be investigated separately, this case, at least, can be handed over to the Oratrice to make the final decision. As such, Linny and Lynette are officially declared not guilty.
Great work, partners.
Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Next, I think we deserve an explanation, Guard Vaughn. How did you find the water from the primordial sea in Linny's baggage?
Right! Your discovery caused me to make a serious mistake, you know. Or was that not a discovery, but...
I suspect that the accomplice mentioned in Cowell's notes was not Linny, but you, yes? I'm sure you know what you must do to lessen your sentence.
Speak quickly! Unless you want to earn yourself a one-way ticket to Coupon Town.
I was just following orders. We were supposed to place blame for the serial disappearances onto Linny, and thus cause suspicion to fall on the Fatui. The higher-ups said this was the best opportunity to do so.
And now that your plan has fallen through, and the secrets of the water have been revealed, you have become a liability to said higher-ups, yes? Therefore, you would be wise to tell everything you know and seek the protection of the guards.
Yes, I'll tell you everything I know. Our boss discovered that the water can cause people to dissolve. It can also be made into a potion, which when extremely diluted, can cause people to experience unforgettable exhilaration. We've been in this business for a while now, and have made decent mora off it. The disappearances were also the boss's idea. I mean, this is the boss we're talking about. The...
And now he can no longer talk.
Such ruthlessness.
An outrageous act. All present, please submit to inspection immediately.
going back now? That's true, but...
Traveler, Paimon! Please wait.
Lenny...
I know you may not want to speak to me right now. Maybe you don't even want to look at me. But still, let me thank you again for defending me to the end, even after you learned that I'm a member of the Fatui. I guess. But regardless, I'd like the opportunity to set things straight. I didn't approach you with any ulterior motives or ill intent. I've spoken to you as myself, just plain Linny this entire time. As for why I'm a Fatus, it's because the goals of the House of the Hearth align with those of an orphan like me. That's all. That was how Father, who you might know as the Knave, approached recruiting us back then too.
The Knave? The one who controls the House of the Hearth? She's your father?
That's right. And since we're here, I was wondering, would you mind hearing a story? Back when our parents first died, Lynette and I were left wandering the streets. To survive, I took to surreptitiously observing an older street performer who did magic. It took me several days to figure out how he pulled off his amazing tricks. I took my sister through several streets until we found a crowded corner, and we began to perform magic tricks there. To my surprise, we proved to be pretty popular, and we could at least stop worrying about where our next meal would come from for a time. But I didn't want my sister to remain a street rat together with me forever. Before long, an aristocrat came to me and claimed that he wished to take us in after watching my performances.
So you went from orphans to nobility just like that?
That was how we felt at first too. As if fate was on our side and we could say goodbye to those painful days. But I gradually discovered that while we were called foster children, he was really after my talent for magic tricks. He would constantly take me to all sorts of banquets to garner attention, which he would then use to expand his social circles.
That doesn't seem too bad either. Better than roaming the streets at any rate.
It took a while for me to realize just how dark his heart really was. After one particular performance at a banquet, I discovered that Lynette was not on the same return vehicle as me. I waited a long time after we returned home, but she did not come back. I went to that noble's bedroom and asked him about her whereabouts. The answer he gave me was, she caught the eye of the most eminent person at the banquet, so I sent her over as a gift. I mean, you'll be able to perform your magic regardless of who your assistant is, yes?
Oh no. So he was gonna... But wouldn't Fontaine's laws deal with such people?
As far as outsiders are concerned, this is a relationship akin to adoption or foster care, and they have their ways of escaping the eye of the law. I managed to ferret out the location of the mansion of that so-called eminent person and hurried through the night. But by the time I leaped over the walls, avoided the guards, and made my... all I saw was the moonlit ground covered in blood, and the knave standing there in the darkness.
So, she'd already taken care of that guy.
That's right. She had rescued my sister before she could come to any harm, and had even discovered several girls hidden in a basement, all of them orphans. Father, the knave, might have seen something in me, and so she made me an offer. The House of the Hearth welcomes you, for your interests align with ours. Here, none will ever betray you. Indeed, betrayal shall never be permitted here. I was hesitant to trust her. I had just been betrayed by nobles. But she was also quick to destroy the noble who had taken us in at first, giving us back our freedom.
Oh, so that's how the two of you joined the House of the Hearth.
She has her own plans. She has gained permission from the Sarita to first use the Gnosis' power once she obtains it. She plans to use it to find a way to break the prophecy and save Fontaine.
So, She
Ach du
believes in that
Scheiße,
prophecy too?
was alles Shino da für eine Rolle spielt.
That's right. The whole House of the Hearth is currently working to combat that crisis. Today's case has also proven that people from Fontaine can indeed dissolve into some sort of water, thus further supporting the prophecy. Everyone at Hotel Bouffe d'été, including the knave, has their roots in Fontaine. And we will, to us orphans, the only connection we have left to this world.
So, from small deeds like distributing magic pockets to huge schemes like stealing a gnosis.
It's alright, I understand. The only thing I can do is relate all this to you. I just hope you can understand that even as a member of the House, I have never stopped making my own decisions, and that I believe what I'm doing is right. If you should need anything at all in the future, feel free to find me. I will do my best to help you, as plain Linny.
Bye, Linny.
Digga, was ein heftiger Storystrang wir durchgeklatscht haben. Bruder. Digga, viel zu heftig, was wir durchgeklatscht haben. Wie weit sind wir jetzt eigentlich? Boah, wir sind halt immer noch in dem Kapitel, Digga, aber wir haben schon so viel durchgespielt vom Kapitel. Boah, Bruder. Wir haben so heftig durchgeklatscht eigentlich. Wetten, wir begegnen gleich alle Shino. Safe 10, ne? Ah ne, Navia.
Hey there. What was with the disappearing act you pulled right as the trial ended?
Were you looking for us, Navia?
Well, this whole thing isn't exactly over, is it? I do feel that we're getting closer to solving the serial disappearances case, though. Don't you think so, too? Huh? What's wrong, my dear partner?
Besides, are you sure we're the ones who can crack a case that's been cold for decades now? And given that there's new evidence from the trial, there should be a trail of breadcrumbs for the Hydro Archon's people to follow now.
Ah, I see. Well, I won't lie. I'm a little shocked to hear that from you. But I suppose you are just travelers who have only arrived in Fontaine after all. Sorry. I might have been too presumptuous.
Don't say that, Navia.
Ah, and we were having so much fun investigating with you, too. It was like having new waters flowing into a stagnant mire, causing new hope to spring forth, and the reflection in the murk to become sorry about that. Wait, shall we have a farewell meal? You know, to commemorate our time as partners?
Huh? Do we really need to get that formal?
Well, I'd just like to have a proper ending to every important memory. That way there are no regrets later. Anyway, it would just be a meal, so it shouldn't take up too much of your time.
You don't have to twist Paimon's arm. If Boss Navia's treating, Camp Paimon—
Oh, wonderful. In that case, why don't we return to the Court of Fontaine and head to the Hotel de Boer? I believe we'll make it—
All right then, let's have our farewell meal.
Oh, der Akt ist abgeschlossen. Oh mein Gott. Was? Opfer des Luciansbrunnen. Opfer der Hydrosiegel. Oh, let's go. Lecco mio, du. Ich will mir gerade mal was angucken. Grundlos gefallen wie ein sanfter Regen, wie die trübe mondlich vergangene Zeit. In diesem Fall geklärt wurde, bist du dir etwas unsicher, was du als nächstes tun sollst. Sich der Tatsache, dass Navia die Partnerschaft mit dir sehr schätzt, beschließt du, ihre Einladung zu einem Abschiedsessen angenommen zu haben. Ja klar habe ich das angenommen. Wer will das auch nicht annehmen, ne? Was bist du? Die Schmiede von Fontaine bearbeitet das Material nicht selbst mit dem Hammer, sondern verwendet stattdessen ein Fortschrittliche Methode. Schau dir das doch mal bei Gelegenheit genauer an. Ja, kann ich ja machen. Aber Legendenaufträge habe ich jetzt keine neue freigeschalten. Nix von die nee, von die Net gibt's hier nix. Und Forina und Aleshino gibt's auch nicht. Und die beiden kriegen wir auch noch nicht raus. Na, schade. Ist halt so. Oh, bitte nicht schon wieder gleich in den Story-Strang. Bitte nicht. Jetzt krieg ich zu viel langsam. Ja, nee, das mit dem Essen, muss ich euch sagen, das mache ich morgen, weil das Problem ist halt, wir haben es jetzt schon so spät und ich möchte jetzt nicht so spät pennen gehen. Ah, hey Anna, auch da. Gerade wenn ich den Stream ausmachen will, perfekt. Oh mein Gott. What the hell, wo ist das denn? Ach, das ist da drüben, oh mein Gott. Ich baut mich extra mal etwas weiter weg. Nee, ich gehe jetzt gleich schlafen, weil ich bin komplett durch. Ich habe jetzt so viel Genshin Impact Story gespielt. Bei mir geht ja auch nicht mehr. Aber wir sind fast auf 20 Puls wieder oben. Aber ich will eigentlich noch einiges an Story weiterspielen. Aber das mache ich morgen. Ich habe jetzt schon so richtig krass durchgezogen. Wir sind in Fontaine. Und da fehlt nicht mehr viel dazu. Also 6 Stunden jetzt gestreamt. Ja. Was habe ich Neues jetzt bekommen? Dankesbrief 2. Oh, nochmal 200 Primo Gems. Gönnung. Kriegen wir nochmal welche?
Something you wish to report?
Ja, wie geht's? So lange
You
nichts
have my
gehört. Hatte dir
undivided
mal auf
attention.
Insta geschrieben, aber scheint dort nicht mehr aktiv zu sein. Ja, hat einen Grund, weil ich von Instagram inzwischen Abstand genommen habe, weil ich nicht mehr auf Instagram sein möchte. Mir sind auf Instagram viel zu viele Leute unterwegs, die creepy drauf sind und allgemein. Ich sehe das irgendwie nicht mehr ein, mein Leben dort quasi zu verplempern. Das ist einfach meine persönliche Einstellung zu dem Ganzen. Mir ist Instagram einfach zu, ja, wie soll man sagen, zu unangenehm geworden, weil da schon ein paar Personen rumbuseln, die echt nicht leicht sind. Und außerdem hatte ich das schon längere Zeit mal angekündigt gehabt, dass ich nicht mehr Instagram mache in meinen Stories. Und ja, ich habe das aber auch anderen Personen geschrieben, dass ich nicht mehr auf Instagram sein will, weil ich einfach, ja, wie schon gesagt, weil mir das einfach zu unangenehm ist. Manche Personen haben es halt verstanden, manche halt nicht. So ist es halt nun mal. Aber ja. Ich würde dann jetzt auch pennen gehen. Ich habe über 5 Stunden gelivestreamt jetzt, also ich bin jetzt echt auch langsam durch. Ich kann nicht mehr. War trotzdem, trotz alledem war es nice gewesen. Ich will mal nur gerade gucken. Ah lol, mein Ding ist ja wieder aufgefüllt. Ich kann mich dann ja wieder nach Fontaine porten. Aber ich würde mich jetzt eben gerade noch nach Mondstadt porten und noch mal ein bisschen was herstellen und dann anschließenderweise aber auch pennen gehen, wie schon gesagt. Weil ich bin einfach komplett durch. So, dann filmen wir das gerade mal auf. Achso. Jetzt müsste ich ja 5 Stück wieder haben, genau. Ja. Na gut, dann euch allen eine wunderschöne gute Nacht. Ich bin jetzt an der Stelle raus. War ein nicer Livestream. Danke an jeden, der heute mit dabei war. Irgendwie so diese Follower-Wall, die hätte nicht so sein müssen. Aber ich hoffe, dass es in Zukunft jetzt nicht nochmal vorkommt. Ich weiß es nicht, kann gut sein. Kann aber auch nicht sein, dass sowas passiert. Und, ja. Euch allen eine wunderschöne gute Nacht. Schlaft gut. Haut rein. Und ja, ich mache heute Abend, denke ich, weiter. Und da werden wir nochmal richtig hart reingrinden und dann mal gucken, wie weit ich dann bin. Eigentlich würde ich schon gerne so weit sein, dass wir am Endeffekt keine großen Stories mehr haben, weil dann könnte ich eigentlich die Quest spielen, aber es reicht auch, wenn es die Tage daraufhin ist, quasi. Also nicht unbedingt, wenn das 5.0 Update kommt, kann auch sein, ich krieg das Ganze erst die Tage hin, aber Hauptsache ich kann die Story weiter durchziehen. Ja. Mal gucken. Wird man ja sehen, wie weit ich komme. Na gut, dann euch eine wunderschöne gute Nacht. Haut rein. Und bis zum nächsten Livestream, Leute. Ciao, ciao.